So guys, I do believe that you will utilize all this small kind of little effort that we are doing at Dbmci to the maximum. Okay, so now today we are going to have our orthopedic test and discussion, and I hope that all of you have been able to do well with the anatomy class. So today's questions, they were not that difficult, they were pretty much simple. And what we need to have for cracking any of the exam is the simple basics. Okay, so once you start with the basic things, then so once you start with the basic things, then automatically the rest of the things will become fall into place. None of the question paper, whether it is FMG, whether it is any other exam, is tough. It is all about learning the basic things, and if you are very much clear about the basic concepts, believe me, things are pretty much simple. In any of the subject, in any of the content, there are two simple things. One is what you call a fact, and second is what you call a concept. Okay, all the concept, they come from the facts only. So you should be first of all aware that what all are the facts and what all is the concept. There should be a clear demarcation between them. Let me tell you one simple example. When you talk about the brachial plexus, brachial plexus is formed from the roots of C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. That's a fact, right? I have not made any kind of concept here that sometime it can be C1, C2, C3, or sometime it can be, T1, T2, T3. No, it is from C5 to T1. That's C5 to T1. That is a fact. From this fact, we have to learn the things that nerves are coming like this and the anterior division and the posterior division are combining. There is no concept behind this. There is a fact. Now, once the terminal branches are coming out of it, the radial nerve it is coming out of it, you know that the radial nerve is a branch of posterior cord of the brachial plexus. Once you are aware of this thing, there comes the concept. You should be able to understand that injury to the radial nerve where is going to lead to the Saturday night palsy, where it is going to cause a crutch palsy, where it is going to cause a wrist drop, where it is going to cause a finger drop. So you should be able to appreciate that thing. Okay, what I have often seen the student doing is, we will skip that part. We will do the rectification. So रटने से काम नहीं चलने वाला है. If you know the basics and the facts and the concept, believe me, question paper will not be that difficult at all. Okay, so it is all about building the basics. So let's start with the very, very basic part. So very first question that you had in your test today was not seen in osteomalacia. So what did you all mark? What is not seen in osteomalacia? Now before I move on to the first question, I would like to give you some basic concept, right? What exactly is that? From the fact, let's try to extract some concept. What is a basic? So basic thing, if we talk of the basics, when you talk about the composition of the bone, normally when I teach orthopedics, I always take the structure of the bone into consideration, that what exactly is the structure of the bone. But here I am going to take up the composition of the bone. Okay, so composition of the bone is made up of three things. Bone is broadly made up of three things. One is what you call as the organic matrix. Second is what we call as the inorganic minerals. Third is what we have, the water, right? So organic matrix, inorganic minerals and water. Water is almost around 5 to 7% of the bone. What exactly is a matrix? Matrix is a framework, and who makes the framework of the bone? The framework of the bone is made by the cell. Which is the primary cell of the bone? The primary cell of the bone, it is your osteoblast. That makes up your bone. Right? That is osteoblast. This osteoblast, it secretes certain protein. And that protein is known as the type 1 collagen. It is known as the type 1 procollagen. So the matrix, the framework will be made by the cell. Which cell? The osteoblast. And this osteoblast is going to secrete some protein. That protein is what you call as the type 1 procollagen. What do you understand by organic? Which keeps on replicating, which is alive, right, which is possible, which has a capacity to regenerate itself or to make itself. Inorganic means that this is something that you have to supplement, and what we have to supplement is the mineral part. So what are the main minerals of the bones? The main minerals of the bones, they are your calcium and your phosphate, right? Your calcium and your phosphate. So if I ask you that how a bone is formed, if I ask you simply that how a bone is formed, so bone is broadly made up of three components, and they are your cell, your protein, and your mineral, isn't it? Am I right on that part? Am I right on that part? Please do correct me if I'm wrong somewhere, okay? So cell and protein and the mineral, these are the three ones which make the bone. So if I want to say that what exactly is a bone, if I wish to say simply that what is a bone, so when I want to say that the cell plus protein plus mineral, that is how the bone is made. This makes the bone. So that simply means to have a normal bone, we must have normal minerals and we must have normal proteins. So normal cell plus normal protein plus normal mineral, it will make a normal bone. If either of the three component is abnormal, the bone will be abnormal. It is as simple as that, right? Now what are the disorders which can affect the mineralization? What are the disorders which are linked to your minerals? So linked to your minerals, the decrease in mineralization, it is seen in what all disorders? So decreased mineralization is related to two disorders, and they are your rickets or osteomalacia. Am I right? Rickets or osteomalacia. What is rickets or osteomalacia? It is decrease in the serum values. What are the disorders which are related to their protein? The protein disorders, they are two basically. One is what you call as scurvy. So how does scurvy occurs? Scurvy is a dietary deficiency. Scurvy is a dietary deficiency of vitamin C. For how long? For 6 to 12 months. So when there is a dietary deficiency of vitamin C for 6 to 12 months, then we see scurvy. The other disorder which is related to protein only, the collagen only, it is your osteogenesis imperfecta. It is related to the protein. The other disorder is what you call as osteogenesis imperfecta. Okay, what exactly is that osteogenesis imperfecta? It is a genetic defect. In what kind of collagen? In the collagen, in type 1 collagen. That means it is what kind of collagen? The collagen which is made by the osteoblast only. So we have got two disorders of the mineralization. We have got two disorders of the proteins coming onto the cell. So in the cell, the disorders are, they are because of the osteoclast all the time, right? The disorders of the cell, they are because of osteoclast. So in the cells, the culprits are always osteoclast. How? These osteoclast, if there is an increase in functional activity, then the disorder the patient suffers from is known as the Paget's disease. It is known as the Paget's disease. Okay, and if there is a decrease in functional activity, then what disorder the patient is having? The disorder that patient is having is osteopetrosis. It is osteopetrosis. Now, so two disorders are coming from where? Two disorders are coming from the cells, right? So why I am telling you this much of basic? As I said that any basic is important if you want to learn a concept, right? So basics are very important. So what did you learn till now? You learned till now that we have talked about 6 disorders, out of which 2 are of minerals, 2 are of protein, and 2 are of cell. If in your exam anybody asks you that what will happen to the mineralization in any of these disorders, so what you are going to say? Like your first question, what it is asking you? Not seen in osteomalacia. So they are asking you about the calcium, ALP and all these things. They are asking you about all these things. So if somebody asks you that in which of the disorders, if somebody asks you that in which of the disorders the minerals will be defective, so you have, from here you can easily make out that mineralization will be defective in which disorders? Only these two. Am I right? So serum mineralization, serum calcium, serum phosphate is only defective in rickets and malacia. If they give you a question about rickets, about scurvy, about osteogenesis, about Paget's, about osteopetrosis, then you know that the serum mineralization will not be defective. Am I clear on that? So that will not be defective at all. So serum mineralization is only defective in either it is rickets or it is malacia. So when do you call it rickets or when do you call it malacia? Rickets you call it when the disorder occurs in a child. Osteomalacia, it happens when it occurs in a adult. So child or a adult, that is the only difference. Rest of the things will be same. Rest of the things will be same, right? Now, in continuation of all these 6 disorders, please remember the basic. Please remember the basic. Now, the 7th disorder that I want you to remember from here is osteoporosis. That often is a misleading thing and we often forgot to understand what osteoporosis is and what is the difference between osteoporosis and osteomalacia. Right? What is the difference between osteoporosis and osteomalacia? So if I try to again make you understand by the help of these boxes, let's suppose this box is what you call as osteoid. This box is what you call as osteoid. Okay. Second box, this, for this much of osteoid, I need what? I need this much of mineralization. I need this much of mineralization. So what do I need? This is the osteoid. What is the osteoid that I forgot to tell you? What is the osteoid? Osteoid is a combination of these two, the cell and the protein. This is what you call as the osteoid. Okay, so the combination that we have talked about here, the cell and its protein, this combination is known as osteoid. This combination is what you call as osteoid. So what we need to make a bone? The osteoid and its associated minerals. And its associated minerals. Right? So osteoid and mineral, if these two are okay, what we get is a normal bone. Now here in this osteoporotic bone, there are 2 possibilities. What is that possibility? Now understand this. One possibility may be that the size of osteoid remains same. The osteoid, it remains same, but the mineralization is less. But there is a decrease in mineralization, right? Second possibility is that the osteoid is also reduced and the mineral is also reduced, right? So what is happening with us? What is happening in this pathology where the osteoid is normal and the mineral is decreasing? So it is a disorder where there is a decrease in mineralization. And when there is a decrease in mineralization, what do you call it? You have already called it osteomalacia. That is osteomalacia. Okay. What is happening in this one? What is happening in the lower picture? In the lower picture, the osteoid is also reduced and the mineral is also reduced. The osteoid is reduced and the mineral is reduced. Both the things are reduced. But the point is, this reduced quantity of mineral, this one is sufficient to mineralize this reduced quantity of osteoid. Osteoid means what? The cells and its proteins. That means whatever mineral is present, it is enough to supply, to give the proper mineralization to the cells. So mineral are less, osteoid is less, but whatever less quantity is present, it is enough. It is enough for the remaining osteoid. So that is the meaning of osteoporosis. What is the literal meaning of osteoporosis now? That the mineralization in the serum, normal mineralization in serum. So serum mineralization will be normal. So this is what you call as osteoporosis. So please remember this. Please remember this fact. It is very, very important. So in osteomalacia and osteoporosis, what is the difference? In porosis, the minerals are normal. In malacia, there is a decrease in mineralization. That is very, 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 very important. Okay. This is very important. So if I ask you now very, very simply that where, in which all condition, I have told you about 7 conditions. If I ask you very, very simply that in which all condition the serum mineralization will be low, can you tell me about that? Can somebody answer me about that? In which condition the mineralization will be low? Can you tell me that? Serum mineralization will be low in which conditions? If you can mention that. Yeah. So, not seen in osteomalacia. Okay. So, what do you think? What do you think? Not seen in osteomalacia. So, what are the conditions in which the serum mineralization will be reduced? So, serum mineral is reduced only in two conditions. Serum mineral is only reduced in two conditions. And what are those conditions? One, rickets. And second is in adults. And what do we call it? Osteomalacia. Very good. Raghuram is very, very active. Yes, absolutely right. So, not seen in osteomalacia. What is the answer for your question number 1? What do you suggest? Not seen in osteomalacia. Increase in calcium. Do we see increase in calcium? No. What do we see instead? We see a decrease in calcium. So, decrease in calcium is okay. Right? So, alkaline phosphatase. Why it is raised? Why it is raised? See, alkaline phosphatase, it is a marker. Alkaline phosphatase, it is a marker of osteoblastic activity. It is a marker of blastic activity. What does that mean? That if the blastic activity is high, the level of alkaline phosphatase will automatically, whenever the blastic activity is high, the alkaline phosphatase will increase. Why? Because this ALP is secreted by blast only. So, more the blasts are active, the more will be the amount of the alkaline phosphatase. So, don't worry about it. You will remember all these things. Okay. So, alkaline phosphatase is raised whenever there is an increase in the blastic activity. Now, the question can be simply asked to you, if the blastic activity is raised, if the osteoblasts are working more, then what about the clast? How do we learn this? So, these are learned by markers. So, I'll tell you in short, what are the important markers? What are the important markers? So, markers means the proteins. Markers means the proteins which you can check in the serum, in the blood. And markers will obviously be of two types. Markers will be of two types. It will be a marker of bone formation. It will be a marker of bone formation, and it will be a marker of bone resorption. That means that whenever the blasts are working more, will you be sharing the PDF? PDF of what? What PDF you want me to share? Whatever I am writing. So, these are the questions which are already given to you. Are they not given to you already? So, markers, the formation means it is showing increased blastic activity. So, what are the proteins which are secreted by the blast, or what are the proteins which are secreted by the clast? So, they are the most important ones. They are alkaline phosphatase. Alkaline phosphatase, and that is why in whatsoever condition the bone is getting damaged, it is getting into lysis, alkaline phosphatase will increase. Okay. So, alkaline phosphatase and type 1 procollagen, these two you have to remember. These are very, very important. So, you also keep on writing. Are you not writing with me? Musica. Are you not writing with me? You have to write it down. Right. So, resorption, the increase in clastic activity means what all will be increased? The most important marker is TRAP. What is TRAP? TRAP is tartrate resistant acid phosphatase. Tartrate resistant acid phosphatase. Okay, so it is tartrate resistant acid phosphatase. Got the point? So, this is very important, right? This is very, very important. So, whenever there will be increase in the bone formation, whenever there is increase in the bone resorption, how you will come to know? You will have to check these things in the serum. You take a blood sample and you have to evaluate this. This is what you have to do. Yeah, you have to write. You don't just have to see. Unless you write it by your hand, it is not going to be very beneficial to you, right? So, you have to write down. You have to write down. Okay. So, markers of bone formation and resorption. So, whenever there is a more of a blastic activity, alkaline phosphatase will be raised. Whenever there is a more of a clastic activity, TRAP will be raised. So, this is acidic phosphatase. Please remember, this is acid phosphatase and this is alkaline phosphatase. So, alkaline media for bone formation, acidic media for bone resorption. Okay. So, what is not seen in osteomalacia? We know that the minerals These are minerals, the calcium and phosphate, and for their regulation, which vitamin is required? Vitamin D. So rickets or osteomalacia, these can be deficiency of calcium, this can be deficiency of phosphate, this can be deficiency of vitamin D. So that is what it is saying. So decrease in vitamin D can be there, decrease in calcium can be there, increase in alkaline phosphatase can be there, but increase in calcium cannot be there. I hope I am clear with this point. Everyone, can you please confirm about question 1? Is this clear to everybody? Malacia. Are we clear about all the disorders? Are we okay with all the disorders? Yes? Then I can move on to the topic number 2. Yes, very good. Thank you. Very good. Very good. Okay. Chalo. So question number 2. The most common manifestation of osteoporosis, right? I have explained to you what is osteoporosis, correct? What is osteoporosis? I have explained to you. So if I want to write about osteoporosis, I have told you that in osteoporosis there is a proportionate decrease in the osteoid as well as the mineral, proportionate. So everything is remaining confined to the bone. What is decreasing is the density, right? So osteoporosis, basically we need to learn certain important points about osteoporosis. What are those important points about osteoporosis? Let's learn about them. Osteoporosis. So in osteoporosis, what is the most commonest problem with which the patient comes to you? It is pain. Most common is pain. Paget's query means you want to know what is Paget's. There will be some question, we'll discuss question by question, don't worry. Okay, most common complaint of any osteoporosis patient is pain, and this pain is localized to 3 most commonest site. What are those sites? Vertebra. They are vertebra. They are the hip joint, and third is distal radius. 3 most common site affected in osteoporosis. They are vertebra, hip and distal radius. Most common site affected in osteoporosis. So they are vertebra, hip and distal radius. Why these are the most commonly affected site? Because all these areas, the vertebra, in the hip, it is the neck of the femur. It is a neck of femur. And why these 3 are the most commonly involved site? Because these are having cancellous bones. These are cancellous bone, right? These are cancellous bone. So why there is pain? Somebody has asked me that why there is a pain. So I am coming on to that only, that most common complaint of these patients is pain, and pain will be usually most common at 3 important sites, that is vertebra, the hip joint and the distal radius. In the vertebra, the most common site is the lumbar area, is the lumbar vertebra. Now you can easily make out that why lumbar vertebra or why the neck of the femur is the most commonly involved site, because these are cancellous bones. And what they help in? Cancellous means the soft bones. And what they help in? They help in your weight transmission. Am I right on that? They help in your weight transmission. So they help in your weight transmission. So when the bones are soft, these areas, the vertebra, the neck of the femur, these have high tendency to get a fracture. And therefore, because of these fractures, the patient's most common complaint is pain. It is not necessary that all the time, all the fracture patients will be coming on stretcher only all the time. No, they will come to you walking also, backache. If you have observed at your own home, especially your grandmother, right? Especially the grandmother, if you look at her younger age photograph, she would be like, more taller. When you see her now, her height would have decreased. Why there is a decrease in height? Because females have more tendencies for the osteoporosis. Why? Because of post-menopausal status, hormonal changes, and because of that the bones become soft, and therefore the vertebra, which was this much in width, it keeps on getting decreased in height and decrease like this. And that is why the older age patient, they have decrease in height like this. Okay, so these are the 3 common areas. Why distal radius? What fracture we see at distal radius? The fracture we see at distal radius is what you call as Colles. Why? Because whenever somebody falls down, an old lady or an old person, anybody, he will try to save his body from getting impacted on the ground, and therefore trying to save, they get an impact onto the wrist areas, and therefore the distal radius, which is again a junction of the cortical and the cancellous bone, the cortico-cancellous bone, they get the injuries, right? They get the injuries. So distal radius is again a most common site. So I hope I answered your question. Why pain? What is the reason of pain? The reason of pain is fractures. The reason of pain is fractures. So if they ask you that what is the most common site of fracture in osteoporosis, you know the answer, right? The answer is either vertebra, lumbar vertebra, neck of the femur, or distal radius collis fracture. Okay, these patients, how the patient will be coming to you? Who are these patients? What is the age of these patients? These are usually elderly. These are usually elderly, or you can say old age patients. And this will be more commonly seen in females as compared to males. As I explained to the reason, that is a postmenopausal status, right? So most of the females after menopause, they will start developing osteoporosis, and therefore they will have pain. Pain can be because of simple trauma with negligible amount of injury. The patient starts getting fractures. That is the reason why the osteoporosis patient get injuries, right? So this is about osteoporosis. How will you diagnose a patient of osteoporosis? The diagnosis of the patient of osteoporosis, it is done by something known as the bone scan, which is actually known as a DEXA scan. Bone scan is a vague term. So what do we do in DEXA scan? What is the full form of DEXA scan? DEXA is dual energy. It is dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. It is dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. Now what is that? What we are trying to check here in the DEXA scan, what we are trying to assess is the bone mineral density. The bone mineral density. What is the meaning of this bone mineral density? That how much dense the mineral is inside the bone. So the length of bone is this much only, femur is so long, and then minerals is somewhere like that, because osteoid are also less. So we check for the bone mineral density. How do we assess this bone mineral density? It is assessed by something known as T-score. So what is a T-score? If the T-score is a value, this T-score, if it is better than -1, it is considered normal. Any value between -1 to -2.5, it is considered osteopenia. And anything which is less than -2.5, it is definitive of osteoporosis. It is definitive of osteoporosis. This is definitive of osteoporosis. When do you call it osteoporosis? When the T-score goes below -2.5, right? They often ask you this question that to whom all patient we should advise DEXA scan. To whom all patient we should advise DEXA scan. See, it is advisable to every female above 55 years. But it is mandatory for any female above 65 to get a DEXA done, right? This is mandatory age. This has been your question, right? So DEXA scan is the way to diagnose osteoporosis. What we check there is a bone mineral density, and the way to check it is T-score. It will be T-score, and how much T-score is required to call it osteoporosis? It is less than -2.5. It is less than -2.5. So mandatory above the age of 65. I hope I am clear in that, right? How do you treat osteoporosis? Please remember that also now. So our patient is an elderly person who is coming to you in your OPD with a backache, with simple history, minimal history of injury, minimal, and they got a fracture. So with minimal trauma, negligible trauma, they are getting the injuries. So treatment will always be two types of drugs which are being given together. And what two type of drug? One category of drug which will inhibit resorption, which will not allow the bone to get resorbed. So the treatment will be inhibiting resorption. So don't allow the bone to get resorbed further. And second category of treatment would be which will promote the bone formation. Promote bone formation. That will be the second category. So promoting the bone formation and not allowing the resorption. So basically, if I give you one example, treating osteoporosis is like trying to fill a bucket, right, with a tap. So tap has been opened and there is water flowing, but this bucket is having a hole. Will this bucket ever fill? No. So what we have to do, we have to keep the tap also open and we have to close this hole also, right? So what are the drugs which can inhibit the resorption of the bone? The most important treatment for osteoporosis, it is bisphosphonates. It is bisphosphonates. Most important is always the bisphosphonate. Second drug is calcitonin. It is calcitonin. That is a nasal spray. So this calcitonin, it is a nasal spray. Third is selective estrogen receptor modulator, and fourth is estrogen. Fourth is estrogen. So bisphosphonates, calcitonin, selective estrogen receptor modulators, and estrogen. These are 4 categories of drug which will not allow the bone to get resorbed further. What are the drugs which will promote the bone formation? They are, the most important in this category, teriparatide. And what exactly is teriparatide? Teriparatide, it is a synthetic PTH. It is a synthetic PTH. Okay. Second is the calcium that we are fond of giving to every patient. Third is calcitriol, that is required for absorption of the calcium. Okay. So these 2 categories should always be given together. The most important drug, if they ever ask you in your exam, is bisphosphonate. So please highlight it. This is the most important drug, and you should always remember that bisphosphonate is the drug of choice. If they ask you that what is the drug of choice for osteoporosis, so it has to be the bisphosphonate. Okay. So let's see the most common manifestation of osteoporosis. So what is the most common manifestation? What do you think you are going to mark? What you are going to mark? Loss of weight. Has it got any significance? No. Sorry. Bowing of legs. Why there should be bowing of leg? Bowing of leg is a feature of what condition? The rickets. Right? Decreased serum calcium. Do we see decrease in serum calcium in osteoporosis? No, that is a feature of osteomalacia. So that is also wrong. Compression of vertebra. That is what I said. That the vertebra which is bigger like this one, it will get depressed like this. And that's what you call compression of the vertebra. So patient will be having with negligible trauma or without trauma. So even without trauma, the vertebra will get depressed, or with minimal trauma, the vertebra will get depressed. That's what you call as the compression of vertebra. Yeah, very good, Raghuram. You asked me this question. I'm glad that you asked me this question. Very good. Okay, so this is the answer. I hope everybody agrees with me. Answer is A. Now, so Raghuram is asking me, sir, how the synthetic PTH can raise? Yes, very good. Abhi has answered it correctly. That is synthetic PTH. What we are going is, it is a low dose. That is the first point. But second point is, this is a low dose PTH which is given, which gives us a pulsatile surge. So it is a low dose which gives us a pulsatile surge. Meaning by, let's suppose somebody is having hyperparathyroidism. If somebody is having hyperparathyroidism, what will happen? Because of hyperparathyroidism, the bones will get resorbed. But here, what is happening? Here we are giving an injection. That injection is promoting the sudden activity of PTH, and then it gets back to normal. So this raise in the activity of PTH off and on, it has been seen to promote the bone formation. So that is bone formation. So this is happening. That is how it helps. I hope, Raghuram, you are clear with this. So this is a low dose pulsatile surge which promotes the bone formation instead of resorbing it. Okay, that is how it helps. I hope I'm clear in this. So question number 2 is about osteoporosis. Okay, now I hope we are good with the second question. Let's talk about the third one. Calcium content of the bone. Yeah, basically it should not be bone of the bone, it is actually calcium content. It should be calcium content only. Of the bone you cannot increase, right? Nothing can increase the calcium in the bones. There is no way. So calcium content is increased in, that should be the correct question, that calcium content is increased in. And where do you check the calcium content? You cannot check the calcium content of the bone, isn't it? What we check is the calcium content in serum. That should be the correct question. So calcium content in the serum is increased in which condition? Steroid administration, what it does? What it does, steroid administration in long term, it hampers with the cycle and regulation. Prolonged immobilization, no activities at all. What it is going to do, what these two conditions are going to do, these cause a decrease in serum mineralization, right? Hyperparathyroidism, what it is going to do, increase PTH, right? Increase PTH, so increase PTH, so increase resorption of the bone, increase resorption of bone, and because of this increased resorption of the bone, what is going to happen? This resorbed, all the mineralization will be reflected in the serum only. So increase in serum mineralization. Estrogen supplement in old age will only cover up the deficiency. It cannot produce an excess of the calcium, right? So hyperparathyroidism is one condition. This is a simple question. You all can easily apply some logic and you can easily answer it, right? So it is increased resorption of the bone. Okay, so this one I have already told you. Marker of bone formation. So marker of bone formation, there are two important markers of bone formation, type 1 procollagen and the alkaline phosphatase. Rest all of them, they are marker of resorption. So type 1 procollagen and the alkaline phosphatase, they are markers of bone formation, right? I hope I'm clear with this. Osteitis fibrosa cystica, all are true except, what is osteitis fibrosa cystica? Any idea? What is osteitis fibrosa cystica? Any idea about this? What is osteitis fibrosa cystica? So this is hyperparathyroidism. Hyperparathyroidism. And this hyperparathyroidism will lead to what? It leads to what? Because of increased PTH, that is what we have just discussed, increased PTH, what is going to happen? It will cause an increase in resorption of the bone. Am I right? It will cause an increase in resorption of the bone. It causes an increase in resorption of the bone, and because of this resorption of the bone will have multiple lytic, patches. Bone will have multiple lytic patches, and that's what you call as the Brown's tumor. That's what you call as the Brown's tumor. So why we call it Brown's? What is brown over there? What is brown over there? So brown over there is basically the collection of hemosiderin. So when the bone is getting, resorbed, when the bone is getting resorbed, then there is a resorption through the bone, and this bony resorption is going to, accumulate the hemoglobin, and the degradation product of the hemoglobin is what? The degradation product is hemosiderin. So that is why that is brown in color, and that's why we call it Brown's tumor. So this Brown's tumor is what we call as the osteitis fibrosa cystica, right? That is what you call as the osteitis fibrosa cystica. So what is the question asking us? Osteitis fibrosa cystica, all are true except reduced parathyroid hormone. Is that true? No, actually it is raised. So this one is wrong, right? Decalcification of the bone, that is what we are saying, it is right. Giant cell tumor, these are the giant cells. They are seen on the histological evaluation. When you take a histological, there is a histological, this is histological evaluation. Yes, when you take the histological sample, when you try to see the cells under the microscope, you will be able to see the giant cells, right? Urinary symptom due to calculi, yes, and this is all happening because of the increased calcium. So when there is an increase in the calcium, there will be increased chances of renal stones, abdominal groans, pubic moans, right? That is what we say. So stone chances will be increasing. So what is wrong over here is this option. I hope I'm clear with the fifth one also. Raghuram is asking a question that, does that mean there is a continuous PTH release in hyperparathyroidism? Obviously. What is the meaning of hyperparathyroidism? Hyperparathyroidism means that it is a hyperactivity of what? Of the parathyroid gland. So that means a continuous rise in PTH. Teriparatitis, you give the injection, PTH will rise and it will settle down. Okay, so that's what you call osteitis fibrosa cystica. So I hope I'm clear with the question number 5. Option A is wrong here, right? Now, this was the question that what is Paget's? Hota kya hai Paget's? Okay. So what exactly is Paget's? First I'll try to explain to you what exactly Paget's is, and then I'll come on to the question. Okay. Now understand what is Paget's. So Paget's disease, I have told you the base already. I have told you the base of Paget's already. What is the base for Paget's? The base for Paget's is that, see, what exactly is Paget's disease? Paget is an uncommon disorder of elderly age group. It is a uncommon disorder of elderly age group. It is an uncommon disorder of the elderly age group. It is an uncommon disorder of elderly age group. Uncommon, elderly age group, very uncommon, right? How it happens? What we see in Paget's disease, there is increase in osteoclastic activity. Why this happens, we don't know. So there is increase in osteoclastic activity. So in Paget's disease, elderly age group means it is usually seen after the 50 years or 55 years of age. It is not seen in a child. So what happens is, for some unknown reason, after some viral infections, after some inciting factors, what actually happens is there is increase in osteoclastic activity. So whenever there is an increase in osteoclastic activity, what is going to happen? There will be increased resorption of the bone. Am I right on that? There is increased resorption of bone. So when there is increase in resorption of the bones, obviously we learned that whenever there is increase in resorption of the bone, there will be increase in markers. Which markers? The clastic activity. Now there is a compensatory mechanism. There is a compensatory mechanism which goes on in the bone. What happens in that compensatory mechanism? That is a big cycle that we need to understand. In short, I am telling you that whenever there is an increase in clastic activity, this clastic activity automatically it promotes the blastic activity. So there will be increase in osteoblastic activity. It is a common mechanism, right? So osteoclastic activity, it will promote the osteoblastic activity automatically. So if there is an increase in clastic activity, it promotes the blastic activity, and when the blastic activity is promoted, obviously what will happen is increase in bone formation. So if there is an increase in bone formation, which marker do you think will be elevated? The marker which will be elevated, it is increase in the markers of bone formation. And that is the reason why the Paget, it is known as the disease of increased bone turnover. What is the meaning of turnover? Like you might have heard about different companies, no? That company is having such a huge turnover in crores. So what is the meaning of turnover? It is not the profit. It is not the loss either. It is that they have done a huge business. Maybe they would have probably done a lot of expenses also. So turnover means there is more of a bone resorption as well as there is more of a bone formation. So it is more. Both the activities are more, and they are going on side by side. So remember that the Paget's is one condition in which both the markers will be elevated. All the other conditions, they have either of the marker raised, but this is one condition in which both the markers will be elevated side by side, right? So this is what happens in Paget's. Now what happens is the most common bone affected in Paget's, the most common bone involved in Paget's, it is the pelvis. Or if they ask you about the long bone, so in the long bone it will be it is tibia. So in the long bone it is tibia, and in the most common, overall the most common bone is pelvis. The most common is pelvis, right? This is the Paget's. This is how the Paget's, it damages the bone. So unknown, origin unknown, but some activities leading to increase in the clastic activity, and that caused an increase in the blastic activity. So increase resorption of the bones, increase formation of the bones, increase in both the markers. So these are important things you should remember, right? And then they give you certain many other features as well. Okay, so when there is an increase, what can be the possible now? If the more of a bone resorption and the more of a bone formation this is going on, what happens is at the end result, what will happen? Initially the clast will keep on eating the bone, and then blast will keep on forming the bone. So blast will first compensate for all the resorption of the clast, and then they suddenly keep on forming new bone. So as a part of complications, what can happen? If only blast keeps on working, what can happen? Number one, they can produce fractures, and that fracture is what you call as the pathological fractures. These are what you call as the pathological fracture. Second one is what you call as the cranial nerve palsies. Is what you call as the cranial nerve palsies, and the most commonly involved cranial nerves, they are 2nd, 5th, 7th and 8th. And because of 8th nerve involvement, majority of the patients, they have complaint of deafness, decrease in hearing, hearing loss, all these are associated. Number 3 if the bone formation keeps on going on, then it can easily lead to a bone forming tumor, and that's what you call osteosarcoma. But remember, less than 1% chances are there that Paget's will convert into osteosarcoma. It is less than 1%. Very. I told you that Paget itself is uncommon, and conversion of Paget's to osteosarcoma is again very uncommon. So uncommon disorder with an uncommon complication, but this is how Paget's moves on. So I hope, Raghu, now Paget's is clear to you. Okay, so let's see the options we have. In Paget's disease, calcium is increased. Should the calcium be increased? Yes or no? What do you say? So this Paget is not a disease of the mineral. It is a disease of the cell. So calcium will not be increased. Calcium will be normal. Serum alkaline phosphatase is increased. Should it be increased or no? That is what we have talked about. So when there is a blastic activity increased, its marker is alkaline phosphatase only. If clastic activity is increased, its marker is acidic phosphatase, the trap, correct? So marker will be increased, and alkaline phosphatase as well as trap. That means marker of bone formation as well as the resorption, both will be increased, right? Serum hydroxylysine, yes, that I told you. This is correct, that it will be increased. Osteogenic sarcoma is a complication, yes, that can be happening, right? So serum calcium is not increased, and serum calcium can only increase in few conditions, very minimal. See, I'll tell you in brief. This table you should always remember, right? This table you should always remember. Serum calcium normal, serum calcium decreased, and serum calcium increased. This is a very simple thing. Decreased in which conditions? It can be decreased in rickets, or it can be decreased in osteomalacia, right? Serum calcium is normal in all the other conditions that we have talked about. Scurvy, osteogenesis imperfecta, OI is osteogenesis imperfecta. Then number 3, Paget's. Number 4, osteopetrosis. Number 5, osteoporosis. So all the other conditions that we have talked about, they will have normal serum calcium. And what about serum calcium increase? It is in hyperparathyroidism, that is increased PTH. It can be in metastasis, right? What kind of metastasis? All the blastic metastasis, means all the blast, when the osteoblast is producing a bone formation. Okay, so malignancies, the secondaries, basically metastasis, secondaries. So tumors or the hyperparathyroidism like multiple myeloma, these all can produce the increase in serum calcium, right? So please remember this very basic thing. Okay, so Priya has asked a question that why there is a fracture when there is a blastic activity. So remember that for the regulation of the bone, not only the blastic or not only the clastic activity is required, both the activities should happen in a coordinated way. If the clast is working more or the blast is working more, there is no coordination, fracture is inevitable. That has to happen, and that will happen. That will happen, okay? That will happen for sure. That will happen for sure, right? So this any of these conditions, any of the Paget's is clear, Raghu, to you? Yeah, Raghu, I think you asked me about, yes, you have already answered. Thank you for that. Now in Paget's, what did we learn? That whenever there is an increase in the blastic activity, bone formation, so bone will be white. So now the next question is coming. So answer for 6th is A. So next question we have, in which of these bone density is not increased in X-ray? So whiteness will not be increased in which one of them? So fluorosis. In fluorosis, what happens? Do we see the increase in density? When the fluoride content is more than 10 parts per million in drinking water. When fluoride content is more than 10 parts per million in drinking water, then we see increased whiteness, right? And when the fluoride content is increased, it can damage the teeth very well, and that is what you call as dental mottling. That's what you call as dental mottling. And the second thing is skeletal, and you can say vertebral calcification, right? Vertebral calcification. So vertebrae will be showing you whiteness similar to your ankylosing spondylitis. As you see that bamboo spine appearance in the ankylosing spondylitis. Similarly, the calcification around the vertebrae, they can cause the calcification of the vertebral area similar to your bamboo spine, right? So fluorescence can be showing you white X-rays. Paget's disease, I have just told you about the blastic activity. Osteopetrosis, what is the other name for osteopetrosis? It is marble bone disease. It is marble bone disease. So that is again white. Why we call it marble? Because it is white, right? Osteoporosis. So there is decrease in density. It is not increase. It is decrease in density. So this is the odd one out here. Now, what is the difference in Paget's and osteopetrosis? We discussed that Paget's occurs when there is an increase in the clastic activity. Osteopetrosis, the other name for osteopetrosis is what? Marble bone disease. So why we call it a marble bone disease? Why we call it a marble bone disease? The marble bone disease is because the bones become white. But the point is, here what is the basic pathology? So I'll tell you, in osteopetrosis what is happening. I told you that there is a decrease in functional activity of what? In osteopetrosis, there is a decrease in functional activity of what? Functional activity of osteoclast. So there is a decrease in functional activity of osteoclast. Okay, and because of this, because of decrease in the activity of because of the decrease in activity of osteoclast, what happens? Only blasts are functional. So clast is not eating anything, but blasts are functional. So what the blasts are going to do? What the blasts are going to do? The blast will keep on forming the bone. The blast will keep on forming the bone. And that is why only whiteness is seen, no black area, right? And this is what you call as the marble bone disease. In fact, the patient will not be showing you in the x-rays. They will not be even showing you the bone marrow. Let me show you osteopetrosis, how it looks like. Let me show you osteopetrosis, how it looks like. Yeah, let me show you the whiteness of osteopetrosis. Once you see it, you will never forget it. What exactly is marble bone disease? Let me show you that. Yeah, so see this. I hope everybody can see. This is what you call as the marble bone disease. All of you can see this, all white. It is so white that even you are not able to see the bone marrow. It is all white because clast is not working at all. Clasts are not working. Okay, so when the clast is not working, only the blast is working, and that produces white X-ray, and that's why you call it a marble bone disease, right? Marble bone disease. So decrease in functional activity, only osteoclast it is defective, so only blasts are working. So what is the final resultant? The final resultant is bone formation. In Paget's, it started with increase in clastic activity, but later on it is only the blastic activity which is going on, and therefore the bone formation. So in Paget's also it is white, in petrosis also it is white, but in Paget's it is hyperactivity. In petrosis it's a normal activity. Okay, that is a broad difference. That is a broad difference. I hope we are clear with this. Question number 7. Everybody is okay? So my purpose is not only to tell you the Q&A, the question and answer. My purpose would be to utilize the session to understand all the important relevant things which are required for your exam, right? Exam is very, very near, and again I would suggest that you should be aware of the basics. So my focus is all the time on the basics. If you remember the basics, you will never mark the answer wrong. Are we okay with 7th? Yeah, okay. So usual, now coming on to the Paget's, last point about Paget's disease, that usually the treatment of Paget's. Now how this Paget started? How this Paget started? The Paget's disease, it started with increase in the clastic activity. Am I right on that? Can somebody please tell me the answer for this? Can somebody please tell me the answer for this? Question number 8, that what should be the treatment? What should be the treatment for Paget's disease? What do you suggest? What should be the treatment for Paget's disease? So we have to stop the clastic activity. And what did I told you in osteoporosis? What did we discuss in osteoporosis? What are the drugs which are used? So decrease, where is that? The treatment part? Yeah. D, very good, very good. Abhi is right. So to inhibit the resorption, what I need to give? Calcitonin or bisphosphonate. So I told you here also, bisphosphonate is the treatment of choice. So all the time when you are talking about the Paget's also, when you're talking about the Paget's also, bisphosphonate should be the treatment of choice. But as the bisphosphonate is not given to us, so we can very well go with the calcitonin. So answer is bisphosphonates. Answer is bisphosphonates. So it is option number D. So calcitonin and bisphosphonates. Calcitonin and bisphosphonates. Okay, calcitonin and bisphosphonate. Right? So this is the treatment. So remember, there are three conditions where we plan to give bisphosphonates. I have told you already two of them. One, osteoporosis. It is a drug of choice for osteoporosis. Second, Paget's. And the third condition which I want you to remember is a tumor where you give this. It is fibrous dysplasia. So osteoporosis, Paget's and fibrous dysplasia. Okay. Number 9. Let's see. I want to answer from you. What do you suggest? What is the answer for question number 9? During routine checkup, 60-year male. During routine checkup, 60-year male found to have a 3 to 4 times rise in the upper limit of alkaline phosphatase. Okay. Serum calcium phosphate LFT levels are okay. So liver function test is okay, calcium is okay, phosphate is okay. Presently asymptomatic. Most likely diagnosis. B. Chetan is saying, Chetan, you are answering for which one? Chetan is answering for which one? Question number 9. So please put a, sometime what happens is there is a lag between your answer and my question. So what you can do, before you answer, just put a question number, Q number 8, 9, like this. Okay. So for what you are answering, if I take the answer as B, Chetan is saying it is hyperparathyroidism. 9, you are saying it is B. In hyperparathyroidism, what will happen, Chetan? What will happen? Increase PTH, increase resorption. So what that is going to lead to? Will serum calcium raise or no? Won't that lead to increase in serum calcium? What do you suggest? Chetan, what do you suggest? Will there be or no? So here it is being said that serum calcium is normal. So here serum calcium should rise. Paget isolated increase in ALP. Oh, very good. Raj has caught it. So it is an isolated increase in ALP. Very nice. Ambika is right. Raj is right. Perfect. Perfect. So it is Paget's. Actually it is Paget's because the minerals are not getting hampered. Had it been a metastatic bone diseases, I told you calcium will be rising. If it is a primary hyperparathyroidism, calcium will be rising. If it is osteomalacia, calcium will be low. And what is not, where it is not getting hampered? In Paget's. Because Paget is a disease of cells. Because Paget is a disease of cells. So for 9th, it will be C. Very good. Everybody, Musica, Ambika. Right, okay. So, yeah, perfect. Chalo. Next one. The gold standard for diagnosis of osteoporosis, I have told you already, we have discussed that already, and that is your DEXA scan. The gold standard for diagnosis of osteoporosis, it is DEXA scan. Absolutely correct. It is DEXA scan, right? And what we are measuring in the DEXA scan, we have discussed already, it is a T score, and when to call it osteoporosis? When the level is less than minus 2.5. When the level is less than minus 2.5, so we call it osteoporosis. We'll call it osteoporosis. Okay, very good. Chalo. Marble bone disease also we have discussed. It is what? Osteopetrosis. Osteitis deformans. What is that? Osteitis deformans. It is again the name for Paget's only. Right? So osteopetrosis, marble bone disease. We have discussed that again. Now tell me about this one. Tell me about this question. Yeah. Tell me about this one. Okay. 2.5-year female child, rickets already diagnosed, deformity is also there. She is on medical treatment for last 3 months. Medical treatment is being given for last 3 months. When should we plan for surgery for deformity correction? A. When the serum calcium is okay. Okay. So Vijay is saying about A. What about B, C, D? What about rest of you? What do you say? So do remember 2 important things. Okay. Do remember about the assessment. Do remember about this important point. C. Healing. When the healing. Okay. Musica, Chetan and Priya are going with C. They are going with C. Okay. And Vijaya is going with A. Right. Anybody else? So assessment of when ALP sub 0. What's your good name? Sub 0. Sir, can you please explain why not B, sir? So I'm coming on to Baba. I have not finished it, na. Have some patience. So assessment of improvement in rickets. How will you come to know that your patient is improving? Assessment of improvement in rickets. How will you come to know that the patient is improving, the child is improving? How will you come to know? So there are two ways. There are two ways for the assessment. What are the two ways? One is a radiological assessment. One is what you call as the radiological assessment. So how to go for the radiological assessment? In the radiological assessment, when you start the treatment, after starting treatment, within 1 to 1.5 months, within 1 to 1.5 months, we can see something special, and that is known as the white line of Frankel. The white line of not Frankel, the white line at metaphysis. Right? So once we start giving the treatment, what will happen to the X-ray? This area will be showing you white line. And what does that white line tells you? The white line tells that the minerals are working. Whatever minerals you are giving as a supplement, they are getting deposited in the child's growth plate. So this is a radiological assessment. But the point is, there is another way of assessing it. That is by metabolic assessment. And how to do the metabolic assessment? See, I told you very basic thing. What basic we learned? The basic we learned is that cell plus protein plus mineral is what we call as the bone. Cell plus protein plus mineral is what you call as bone. So to call it a normal bone, all the content should be normal, right? In our case, our mineral part is defective. So the bone is defective, right? The bone is defective, and when the bone is defective, the blast can very well sense it, that there is a defect in the bone. To cover up that defect, what the osteoblast does, that it increases the activity. There is increase in osteoblastic activity. What this increase in osteoblastic activity is doing, it will keep on forming new bones. Why it is forming new bone? Because it can sense that there is something wrong with the bone. So it will keep on forming the new bone. But the point is, whatever new bone is being formed, that new bone is also defective, isn't it? The new bone is also very defective. And this new bone, which is defective, it becomes normal when? When will it become normal? It becomes normal only when the minerals are supplemented. So once you start giving the minerals, what will happen? This increased activity of osteoblasts will start settling down, right? So metabolic assessment is done by that the levels, initially levels are high. Initially the level of alkaline phosphatase is high. With improvement, the levels gradually declines down. The levels gradually declines down, and becomes normal. And when it is going to become normal? When all the mineral which is required by the bone has been supplemented, right? When it has been supplemented. So all the metabolic assessment will be done by this, and this assessment can take up to 1 to 1.5 years to become normal, right? It can take up to 1 to 1.5 years to become normal. So metabolic correction, it takes around how much time? 1 to 1.5 years. And the radiological assessment will be taking only 1 to 1.5 months. So when should you operate? If I operate on the basis of white line only, what is going to happen? That blastic activity is still high. It will create the deformity again, even if I operate. So I must not operate till the blastic activity settles down. Okay. So now what is the answer? Answer is this. Option number B. Answer is option B. So we should only operate when the alkaline phosphatase, it becomes normal. That will take almost 1 to 1.5 years to come back to normal. Okay, are we clear with this point? Option number B. Option number B. Are we clear with this? Are we clear with this, everybody? So only operate when the blastic activity is low. Otherwise, even after your surgery, the deformity will come again because the blastic activity is more. Are we clear with this? Can we move? Can we proceed? Yes, very good. Chalo, next. About skeletal maturity means, please be specific what you want to say. Chalo. Okay, so all are before surgery. I didn't get it. Chetan, I'm sorry, I didn't get it what you want to ask. I didn't understood. If you can put the question, then else I can start the next one. चलो ठीक है, next start करते हैं. All are malignant bone tumors except all are malignant bone tumors except ABC. Very good. So I hope that everybody is remembering all the important points about all the tumors. But in short, I'll tell you what all three things to be learned in tumors. Okay. In tumors, there are only three things that you need to remember. In tumors, there are only three things that you need to remember. What are those? So when you talk about the tumors, there are only three things. What are those? The first one is to learn the location of the tumors. The first is to learn the location of the tumor. Second is to remember the nature of the tumor. And third is to know the spatial feature. Age is not that important. What is important is the location. Right? These are three important things that you should see in any X-ray. If you see these three step by step, the first thing should always be location. Second is nature. Third is spatial feature. Right? How will you come to know about location? Epi, meta, die. That's a simple thing. How will you come to know about nature? Look at the X-ray. If there is a proliferative, if there is a lot of proliferative periosteal reaction, then we know that it is a malignant tumor. If it is not showing you any kind of periosteal response, then we know that it's a simple tumor, it's a benign tumor. Special feature means, for example, you know that soap bubble appearance, giant cell tumor, Ewing sarcoma, onion peel, osteosarcoma, Codman's or the sunburst. These are special feature. So every tumor is having one special feature, right? So let me tell you in brief that what all tumors you need to learn, right? So okay. So one thing I wish to show you guys, and one I want from all of you is that you should be able to make up a small image like this. Let me show you that image. I have drawn it myself and I want you to draw yourself that simple image. See this. This is an image which if you want me to share this with you, this is a handmade image, epiphyseal tumors, metaphyseal tumors and diphyseal tumors. So like this, what you can do, you can take up the small part of this and you can draw it yourself so that for your exams, your tumors are complete. So don't expect any hi-fi things in any of the exam, whether it is NEET or INI or the FMG, every exam is asking you the basics only, okay? So first thing is to learn the location of the tumors. So how many tumors we learn at epiphysis? So if you want this, if you want this image that I have just shown you, you can very well just send me a message on the Telegram. You can be connected with me on my Telegram channel or my Telegram group, because we keep on sharing everything over there. So you can just send me a message. I'll share that with you. It's not a problem. So epiphyseal tumors, you have to learn two tumors. One is giant cell tumor and one is what you call as the chondroblastoma. So out of these two tumors, which is the common possibility of being asked to you, you can highlight GCT. So if there is a epiphyseal lesion, answer is GCT, right? If there is a epiphyseal lesion, answer is GCT. Number two, at metaphysis, what all tumors I want you to remember. At metaphysis, what all tumors I want you to remember. So remember all the tumors like osteochondroma, from where we have a possibility of questions being asked. Osteochondroma, the cartilage tumor, unicameral bone cyst, UBC, aneurysmal bone cyst, ABC, then the non-ossifying fibroma, NOF, and osteosarcoma. So if you are getting a lesion in your exam which is metaphyseal and which is benign, then answer will be from these four. If you get a lesion which is malignant, answer will be this. So osteosarcoma, it is malignant. Osteosarcoma is malignant, and these all four, they are benign. If I talk of the GCT and chondroblastoma, these are having a mixed kind of nature. We call it benign aggressive tumors. That means they are usually benign, but there is a high possibility that they may convert into malignancy. So epiphysis, metaphysis, and then we can have one diaphysis. So diaphysis, basically the tumors that you have to learn, you should remember, it is Ewing sarcoma. There are two tumors which I want you to remember from diaphysis, Ewing's and fibrous dysplasia. These are simple tumors which I want you to remember. So this fibrous dysplasia, it is a benign tumor. Ewing sarcoma, it is a malignant tumor. I want only these tumors to be remembered by you. If you can remember these, then I think your answer, none of the question will be going out of it. This NOF is non-ossifying fibroma. So I have told you already two things. Okay. What are those? Location and the nature. I have already told you two important things about the location and the nature. I hope we are clear with this. Let's talk about their special features also one by one. I'll be putting the tumors, and I'll show you I'll mention the special features. The third point also. GCT. What is the special feature? Soap bubble. Where? Soap bubble. Where? At epiphysis. Soap bubble at epiphysis. That is a special feature. Soap bubble at epiphysis. Okay. Second one I want to tell you is osteochondroma. How will you identify osteochondroma? Osteochondroma will be a polyp-like growth. And where it will be, that you already know. That is metaphysis. So a polyp-like growth at metaphysis. Third, what is the special feature for unicameral bone cyst? The special feature for unicameral bone cyst is fallen fragment. I'll show you all these pictures, don't worry. Just note it down. Fallen fragment sign. What is that? A piece of bone will be falling into the cavity. Fourth, the aneurysmal bone cyst. What will be the special feature? Again a soap bubble. But where is the soap bubble located? It is at metaphysis. Right? Then Ewing sarcoma. You already know what is the special feature of Ewing sarcoma? Onion peel. Where? Diaphysis. And what is the special feature for fibrous dysplasia? It is the bending of the proximal femur. What do you call that? The bending of the proximal femur like this. That is known as the Shepherd Crook deformity. That's known as Shepherd Crook deformity. Okay. I'll put this in your group. Don't worry. I'll take a click and I'll put this in your group. And then I'll show you that how these things they look like. Yes, very good. Shepherd crook, how to put it? Yeah, I'll take a picture and I'll put it over there. Yeah. This is what I want. These are the important things that you need to remember. I have put a photo in your group also. Okay, so I put the photo in your group also. Right, let me show you all these images one by one and then I'll move on to the next part. So I put that, let me open up the bone tumors and I'll show you bone tumors. Let me open that up for you and I'll show you all these that I've mentioned over here. I'll show you all these, how they look like. Okay. Yeah, so first of all see this bending of the bone. See this? I hope that everybody can easily appreciate this. Yeah. So this bending of the bone, see this, where the pointer is moving, this bending of the bone is what you call as Shepherd Crook deformity. What is the meaning of Shepherd Crook? Shepherd Crook is this person who is herding the sheep. So he has got a stick bent like this. That's what you call Shepherd Crook deformity. So this is fibrous dysplasia. Second, I told you about the UBC and the ABC, this osteochondroma. So osteochondroma will be like this, a polyp-like growth which is going away from the bone, right? Then when you talk about these two bones, this is what you call as the UBC, the fallen fragment sign. What is the meaning of that fallen fragment sign? See this piece of bone inside the cavity, all of you can appreciate that? The piece of bone inside the cavity, that's what you call as the unicameral bone cyst. And what is aneurysmal bone cyst is like this. The soap bubble appearance, where? The soap bubble appearance, where? At the metaphyseal area. See this epiphysis is absolutely clean. Epiphysis is clean and there are septations inside this lytic lesion. So if you see a soap bubble, just don't blindly mark the GCT. Have a look on the location, right? Have a look on the location. So location will be metaphyseal here. Then next one, okay, next one is this. See this now, this is, sorry, where is it? Yeah, now see this image. See this image now. Here we can have a soap bubble appearance. Where is it located? It is located at epiphyseal area, correct? This is epiphyseal area. So soap bubble at epiphysis is what you call as GCT. So now you can very well have a similarity between this tumor and this tumor. What is the only difference? Here also we have septations. Here also we have septations. The difference is the location. Okay. After that, this is the osteosarcoma we forgot to mention. So osteosarcoma is this, the sunburst appearance and the Codman's triangle. So this is sunburst appearance, and in your previously conducted examination, just before the previous session, they asked you about a histological sample also. How they ask you the question? They gave you some this kind of picture. Let me show you that also. They gave you some this kind of picture. Let me just show you that also. So they gave a pathological specimen in the exam, and then they asked that what is the most likely diagnosis for this tumor, right? That's how they asked the question, that what is the most likely diagnosis for this tumor. So where is that? Let me just find it out. So I have that was a very simple thing again, and students still got confused because we are not used to see the histological specimen. So whenever they are giving you any question about the tumors, just remember that first thing to be seen all the time, it has to be the location only. So that was, again, I'm missing out that picture. Where is it? Yeah, that pathological specimen, I think I missed it somewhere. I'm missing it somewhere. That's not a problem. Okay. So there was a pathological specimen which was given, and from that pathological specimen, they wanted to know that what is the most likely diagnosis. So I think that was here only. Let me just see here also. Yeah, it is not over here. So I somehow missed it. That's not a issue. So we can, sorry. Yeah. So I can just show you the rest of the images. Yeah. So this is sunburst or the Codman's triangle, and this is what you call as the onion peel appearance or the lamellated appearance. Right, that's a onion peel or the lamellated appearance. So see the gross specimen also, if it is coming from the metaphyseal area, it has to be osteosarcoma. It is shown only in the diphyseal area, it has to be Ewing sarcoma. It is only in the epiphyseal area, it has to be GCT. Right, these are the common tumors which are asked to us. Right, so that is, you have to remember these things. So this is, yeah, this is about all the tumors. I hope you have noted and you have written all of them. Yeah, so let's note down the last one also. About the osteosarcoma. So osteosarcoma will be having what? The sunburst appearance. Will be having the sunburst appearance, or will be having the sunburst appearance or the Codman's triangle. Will be having the sunburst appearance or the Codman's triangle. Right? Sunburst appearance or Codman's triangle. Right, these are the points about the tumors. So location, nature, and the special feature. So in this very short note, I have tried to give you all the three things. So please highlight which are being asked to you commonly. GCT, highest possibility. Osteosarcoma, very high possibility. Ewing sarcoma, very high possibility. Osteosarcoma has been asked a couple of number time, but these are the common tumors. other than chondroblastoma is not expected at your level, right? So in it is something which is beyond the PG level. So when you are preparing for the basic examination, entrance examination, FMG examination, NEET or INI exam, chondroblastoma is not expected, right? So GCT, osteosarcoma, UBC, ABC, osteosarcoma, Ewing's, fibrous dysplasia, these are having MCQs for us. Okay, chalo. Next one. Has everybody understood this point? Has everybody understood the point? Please confirm me yes or no, so that I can move further. Okay. Can someone please confirm it? Can someone please confirm it? Okay. So if it is fine, can we move further? Yes, very good, very nice. Chalo. 14th. Bone tumor arising from the diaphyses are all except, I told you already, we have discussed that point already. So osteoblastoma, diphyseal, fibrous dysplasia, diphyseal, giant cell tumor, epiphyseal, Ewing sarcoma, diphyseal. So which one is this one? So again, giant cell tumor is having a high possibility of being asked in any of the examination. In which of these sunburst appearance is found? I have already shown you the sunburst appearance, and that is a feature of osteosarcoma. I have already shown you that, right? We have already seen that. Okay, okay. Right, chalo. Next one, 14C. Yes, 14C, very good. 15th, sunburst appearance I have shown you already. 15th, it is osteosarcoma. Okay. Okay. Right, chalo. Next one. Okay, chalo, next one. Next batao. Okay, chalo. Next, 15th. Everybody has noted, I think. 16th, least likely to present as an eccentric osteolytic lesion. Least likely. Okay, देखो अब इसमें से lytic lesions कौन कौन से हैं? Least likely to present as an eccentric osteolytic lesion. ABC, giant cell tumor. Giant cell tumor is eccentric. Okay, fibrous dysplasia, it is usually central. Central means these are not the lytic lesions, but basically they eat up the whole bone, right? These are seen in internal part. These are seen in internal part of bone. The cortex is okay. The cortex remains normal, right? ABC and simple bone cyst, these are again least likely to present. Actually, it should not be least likely, it is most likely, which is seen as eccentric lytic lesion. So UBC and ABC, this is simple bone cyst, means unicameral bone cyst. Why we don't call it a simple bone cyst? Because simple bone cyst can be because of multiple reasons. For example, it can be hyperparathyroidism, it can be multiple myeloma, it can be anything. So UBC also can be central, can be eccentric. It is not a hard and fast rule that it has to be central or eccentric, right? So basically eccentric, least likely, I would say that least likely, most of them, they can be central also. They are central also. They can be eccentric also. So basically, I think there is something wrong with the formation of the question, but yes, the most likely which is odd one out from here, other than all the 3 lytic lesion, it is GCT. GCT is usually eccentric. It is basically the most likely. So least likely will be A, C or D. Most likely will be GCT. So there is a small correction that we need to do. ABC or ABC or UBC can be eccentric, can be central, but they involve the whole part of the bone. Fibrous dysplasia is usually central, which involves the internal part of the bone. The cortex remains normal, right? So giant cell tumor, I have shown you already that giant cell tumor is involving the whole of the bone. One more question is for you. The 17th is for you and you will try to answer it. Now answer me about this question. Answer me about question number 17. What do you think it is? Yeah, C, GCT, but there is no soap bubble. Most of you are saying C and C, but why GCT? What is the reason? Why GCT? What is the reason? Reason bolo. Reason batao. Why? Reason. Why? Why it is GCT? Because the reason is very good. It is epiphyseal. Because it is epiphyseal. And we know that adventinoma and all other tumors are at other locations. Very good. Now what is this Olliers disease? Any idea what is Olliers disease? Kya hota hai Olliers disease? The tumor of the cartilage. The tumor of the cartilage. They are known as chondroma. What is chondro? Chondro is cartilage. Oma is the tumor. So tumor of the cartilage. Which kind of tumor? Which kind of cartilage? The hyaline cartilage. So these are tumors of the hyaline cartilage. These are tumors of the hyaline cartilage. These are tumors of hyaline cartilage. Okay. The most common location for these cartilaginous tumor, it is the phalanges. Most common location will be the phalanges, the hands basically. Okay. The most common location will be hands. In the hands, what do we call it? In the hands, they are known as enchondroma. They are known as enchondroma. Very good. So whenever there are multiple enchondroma, they are known as Olliers disease. Right? And whenever this enchondroma, it is accompanied by hemangioma. Then this is known as Maffucci syndrome. Right? Then that is known as Maffucci syndrome. What is the significance? क्या significance है दोनों का? That this Maffucci syndrome almost has a chance of 100% chances of malignant conversion. 100% chances of malignancy. There are 100% chances of malignancy. Okay. So Olliers disease, multiple, 100% chances of malignancy in Maffucci. That is the importance of Maffucci, right? So what is that Olliers disease is associated with? Enchondroma. How does it looks like? Let me show that also. How it looks like. Kaisa dikhta hai ye? This is metabolic disorders. I'll show you about the bone tumors, how it looks like. So in bone tumors, how the enchondroma person will be coming to you? They will be coming to you with a swelling around the metacarpal, with a swelling around the phalanges, and how the swelling looks like, something like this. This is what you call the tumor of the pre-malignant, and there is a 100% chances of conversion into malignancy of Maffucci. So this is how the enchondroma will be seen. Okay. I hope we are clear with this point. Let's see the next one. So Olliers disease and enchondroma. So there are two systemic associations, Olliers and Maffucci syndrome. A 15-year-old boy having asymptomatic. Now tell me the answer for this one, 19th. What is the answer for this one, 19th? Anybody? Answer for this. There is a 15-year-old boy, asymptomatic, palpable hard swelling. I have already given the answer for this one. Around the lower thigh for 6 months. X-ray done. Reported some growth from the metaphyseal region of the left femur. Most likely diagnosis. Bolo, what is the answer? I have already given you the answer. I have shown you the answer basically. So why there should be a palpable, in which of the condition there should be a palpable hard swelling around the metaphyseal area of the bone? So what do you think it is? X-ray showing you metaphyseal growth. What do you think it is? It is your chondroma. This is a growth. And when the chondroma is coming from the inside the fingers, when it is inside the finger, we called it what? We called it enchondroma. But when now it is outside the bone, then it is known as osteochondroma. Then it is known as osteochondroma, right? So when the tumor is outside the bone, we call it osteochondroma. This A is osteosarcoma, my dears. Ambika, Abhi, this is osteosarcoma, OS. Come on, come on, come on, come on. What you are saying? See, why it is not osteosarcoma? Why you are saying osteosarcoma? See, understand this. Understand what it is saying. It is asymptomatic. If it would have been malignant, would it have been asymptomatic swelling? Won't the malignancies cause some clinical problems? Will there be or no? What do you say? So Ambika and Abhi, I'm waiting for your reverts. Osteoblastoma. Why osteoblastoma? Did we even talked about osteoblastoma? This is never being going to be asked to you. Never. Osteoblastoma doesn't have anything to be asked to you. Right? It is not having anything. Abhi or Ambika, please tell me on that. Whether do you agree with us on osteochondroma or you're still going for the osteosarcoma? So malignancies will not be asymptomatic. Osteochondroma is a benign tumor, so it has to be asymptomatic. So do you agree with us? Yeah, both of you. Very good. So every word in the question will be important. Don't hurry. Train your mind before your exam. Still we have got more than 1 month, for your exams. So train your mind in a proper way so that there is a coordination between the mind and the eyes. And if you are able to catch up everything, let's suppose we have to find out important words in these questions only. What are the important words? 15 years. 1. Asymptomatic, palpable, hard swelling, lower thigh, 6 months, X-ray, metaphyseal growth. So now when you say asymptomatic, my answer will be coming from benign area. Right? Now I forget about this. Right? So this is how I want to find out the important things. So 19th. Most common complication of Colles. What do you say? Answer for 20th. The most common complication for Colles. What do you suggest? What do you suggest? So most common complication for Colles. What do you suggest? So what is Colles fracture? How do you define Colles fracture? So Colles is defined as C. Dinner fork. Nah, Ambika is wrong. Abhi is also wrong. So Colles, the most common complications, Colles is extra-articular fracture of distal end of radius. Am I right on this? Extra-articular fracture of, very good. Vijay is right here. Distal end of radius. At where? Where? Cortico-cancellous junction. At cortico-cancellous junction, right? At the cortico-cancellous junction. So most common complication of Colles is, let's talk about the complications also. So 4 are already mentioned here. The most common is always the stiffness. Why stiffness is most common? What is the logic behind this? What is the logic? Because whenever there is a fracture, what you are going to do? You are going to put a plaster, and once you put a plaster, the movement of the joint will be restricted, and once you remove the plaster, the stiffness will be there. So that has to be there. Dinner fog may be there, may not be there, depending on how well you have reduced the injury, right? So one of the complication is carpal tunnel, that is right. One of the complication is deformity, dinner fog, rupture of EPL. Then another can be something known as Sudex dystrophy. Other complication can be Sudex dystrophy. It can be Sudex dystrophy. Okay. So carpal tunnel, stiffness of fingers, dinner fog deformity, rupture of EPL. These are the complications which are related to Colles fracture, right? So Ambika and Abhi, I hope you are with us on this too also. There is no, there is no differences in the opinion of both of us. We are on the same page, okay?